So I mean, having it doesn't hurt to have
37% life each.
Alright, so I wanted to make a video talking about why I believe Carrion Wind is an overlooked item. I really think that the level 13 Twister is actually very useful for stunning the enemies, especially for a Kixen. The life leech doesn't hurt as well. I mean, look at the life leech right there. We really don't even need potions unless I get into a whole lot of trouble and I'm just way too surrounded. High poison resist is pretty good. The damage goes to mana. That way you're gonna have mana more often. And then I have Breath of the Dying on swap. This is mainly to leech life and to leech mana. Because ideally I would have a mercenary that would have an infinity so that my orbs would do more damage. And somebody might say, well, Rift has a higher level frozen orb as well as Twister. I mean, as well as Tornado. But the thing is, they're not going to really be that high of a damage. It's more of an AoE thing, more of a utility of freezing the enemies and stuff like that, slowing them down, everything like that. So I like Voice of Reason simply because it's also got the negative to enemy cold resistance, and it's also got cannot be frozen. In an ideal situation, I would have either my Gore Riders or my Goblin Toes on, but I don't have high enough dexterity. So I have these on. I need to upgrade them, but I'm not really worried about the damage from that because honestly, most of the damage when I'm playing cows, which is what this build's for, most of the damage is going to be coming from my traps, and then the frozen orbs are going to be helping to freeze the enemy. I'm getting a little bit of extra damage on my orbs from the Night Wings, and then I got the negative enemy cold resistance on here. Ideally I would have the better boots on, and I would have maybe even like Wisp Projector on this instead of the Ravenfrost. But then I would run the risk of getting frozen when I'm on swap. So I mean, everything has its trade-offs. So here's what I have. I have Voice of Reason, 320 gloves, Carrion Wind, Arachnid Mesh, Ravenfrost, Water Walk, which I may or may not upgrade these because honestly, I mean, I'm only going to really use them for this very unique scenario where I'm playing cows with this build. Spirit, Atmos Scarab for that amp damage, which is good like against the Cow King or whatever. Chains of Honor. Some people like Enigma. I personally like Chains of Honor on this build if I'm not trying to teleport around. If I'm just doing boss runs and trying to get straight to the boss, I'll put Enigma on. But for this particular build, I like this. I got Night Wings with an IAS jewel in it, and then on swap I got Breath of the Dying, which is kind of controversial. Some people are like, why the hell would you do that? Honestly, it's because of like all the stats that it has, the 30 to all attributes, the mana steal, the life steal, the IAS, essentially with the Phase Blade base already being negative 30 attack speed, it basically makes it negative 90, so it basically almost hits every trap, breakpoint, and everything like that, even if I don't have Burst of Speed active. So if I wanted to go with like Treachery, or if I wanted to go with something else and do a different build, I wouldn't necessarily have to always be doing my Burst of Speed to get kick speed or to get trap speed, anything like that. So that's why I do that. This is basically what I swap to if I run out of mana and I want to leech some mana really quick, or if I'm getting low on life and I don't want to use my potions. And then if I get hit with this, then I'll cast Lower Resist. I honestly think if I had an Infinity Mercenary, I think that this would really shine. You know, I don't think that it's the best possible build for bosses or anything like that. If I'm doing bosses, I'm probably just going to use the Death Phase Blade. But I have the 7 kick frame because of all the skillers that I have in my inventory. Got a decent amount of trap skillers and stuff, so I'm getting decent amount of damage from my traps. 7 kick. I like Burst of Speed still because it speeds up my movement and everything like that, but aside from that, let me just show the build a little bit get into some cows and play around with it. Now, I don't really think the tornado or the other stuff is really like even with this Rift, I like Rift, but I don't really, honestly, recently I haven't been using Rift very much. Like when I do runs, whether I'm doing Mephisto runs and just teleporting straight there, or doing Bale runs, I usually just use these two, and then on swap I'll have Death here instead. And then, you know, sometimes I'll swap and I have a Storm Shield that has a 15 IAS jewel in it. But really, for Players 1, that's one thing that I do like about Players 1. You do have a whole lot of flexibility with what you can use in terms of builds and everything like that. So I mean, it does plenty of damage even with these mediocre boots that I'm using at the moment. Especially when I have the Atmos Scarab for the amp damage and everything like that. Another thing I like about the Carrion Wind is when I'm killing enemies with the Breath of the Dying, it's sending out that Poison Nova, and then I'm also casting Poison Nova some of the times I'm getting struck. And it's not really a big source of damage or anything like that, but I feel like it's almost kind of operating similar to open wounds or something. It's preventing the monster from being able to heal if they're around the enemy that died, or if I cast Poison Nova. It's gonna cause me to be able to constantly just not have to worry about the enemies healing. If I was doing Ubers with this character, I would definitely gear it differently, so the open wounds really isn't a big deal, or the poison damage in general, because I'm not really worried about enemies healing before I can get them finished. One thing I like about Players 1 is I don't really like to have to swap between having Call to Arms in a cube or anything like that, and I actually like to try to make builds where I literally don't use a Call to Arms, where I can just run around, you know, I have enough life to handle the situation, and if I get low, I can swap and do a little bit of leeching and stuff like that. And then, since I'm doing PVM and I'm not doing Ubers or anything like that, also, I can benefit from having a strong mercenary. He doesn't have Cannot Be Frozen, but honestly, some situations Cannot Be Frozen can even be kind of like overlooked. I mean, overrated, not overlooked. I don't really think that it's always necessary to have Cannot Be Frozen. That's just a personal opinion, but I mean, honestly, I might want to sacrifice a trap skiller out of my inventory so that I can carry certain things, because it kind of sucks having to go back and forth if I'm farming shit to be able to go get something like Wart's Leg right here, and then like I'm gonna have to free space in my inventory to be able to even make cows right now. But aside from that, just for the sake of like theory crafting and everything like that, see, this is where we run into problems trying to absolutely maximize a character or something like that, because you're gonna have to sacrifice either inventory space or something. But I want to just show this character real quick so you can see how it does in cows and every. Bro, you gotta be kidding me. So I mean, the orbs proc a whole lot, and they also, I think, help to keep the mercenary alive. And I honestly also think if I was using an Infinity Mercenary, the traps would be killing things way faster, as well as the as well as the orbs. The orbs would be doing decent amount more damage. See, and then I get low on mana. I don't know why that guy's not leeching. I guess he's just a higher level monster, so leech isn't as effective. But I feel like this might even cast your orbs more often than Rift because of the base weapon type. Like, I feel like the orbs might be coming out more on this than it would on a mace.
I can't carry anymore.
Simply because of the weapon type, because the base weapon speed and everything. I'm low on health right there. I mean, but look, even if I didn't hit the potion and I was able to single a cow out right there, I would have been perfectly fine and gotten all my health back really quick. I feel like a lot of these assassins, you really got to rely on their traps a lot in addition to other things, except for when you're fighting bosses and you're using like crushing blow or something with atmoscarab or anything like that. Damn, my mercenary died again. That's the one thing about using Enigma, your mercenary's gonna die far less as well. So I mean, there's trade-offs to everything. I'm really liking the Carrion Wind Ring though, because I feel like, especially when I use it with the crushing blow, like if I use it with the death phase blade instead of using this particular setup, I can really benefit using it like against Bale waves and stuff. Like the very last two Bale waves, feels like it does a good job at stunning them when they're trying to really close in on you and, you know, hit you from all angles. I think I probably should have space in my inventory so that I can have my cube, so I can at least check items and pick them up. But honestly, at this point, I'm kind of only going for certain, because of a limited number of characters and certain other things, I'm only really going for certain items, certain runes and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're going just specifically for kill speed, something like this would be perfectly fine. See, I mean, it's mostly that death sentry in addition to the traps that's getting everything. But I mean, just having all these enemies frozen like that, even the ones that I don't directly hit, is pretty beneficial. And I mean, it just looks cool. And you still get the effect of cool looking little tornadoes coming out from the Carrion Wind. It's not going to be quite as damaging as the tornadoes, but the twisters, I like how the twisters can stun the enemies, which is a nice little effect. And also it gives me that extra life leech. So I mean, it doesn't hurt to have 37% life leech when I'm swapping to this. In addition, 37% life leech, and then I also have slows target by 30%. So I mean, I just think that, oh, see, and that procced, lower resist procced on them, and I mean, look how fast they went down. I wasn't even using a death sentry right there. And you could have builds that do more damage, you know, stronger traps, all certain things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it is all about having fun. And I don't want to play a build that's completely like uninvolved. I want to, you know, it's kind of fun to run around and kick shit. In my opinion, at least. One thing that I like also about using the Chains of Honor as opposed to using Enigma I like how the Chains of Honor has all that resistance on it. And I really feel like, especially like if I want to run through and do bail runs, if I'm teleporting through to do bail runs and I'm using Enigma and I see those ghosts, not ghosts, the souls that shoot the lightning out, I just back out of the lobby and I go back in and hope that they don't. Same thing when I was using the Javazon and teleporting. It's like I don't even want to run into those souls because I know it's just going to be a waste of time. It'll take forever trying to stay alive and take those out. Even if I was using Call to Arms or whatever the case may be, those souls just kill you so fast. But when I have 75% lightning resistance, you know, and I'm running through the room and I'm laying traps and I'm kicking stuff, even if I had Death instead of Voice of Reason on for bail runs, for instance, because I'm not gonna run into the souls and cows, of course, but I prefer the resistances more, and plus you're gonna find more runes the more enemies you kill. So if you're sitting there, you know, skipping over the whole level and the first 2 levels and everything like that, you're not gonna find as much stuff. You're not gonna find as, I mean, I don't know. I don't like to skip over content unless I absolutely have to. So with that said, let me adjust this. I'm gonna put this in my inventory. I can't be bothered to not have space to farm with. So we're gonna sacrifice a little bit of that trap damage. Couple hundred damage, but I mean, in the grander scheme of things, it's not a massive deal. This video is going over a little bit longer than I thought it would, but I don't know, maybe some people will enjoy it. I know sometimes I'll get into the gameplay and it takes me a little bit longer to get what I'm trying to say out. But there's what I was looking for. But I mean, it's really the death sentries that are gonna take all the enemies out really fast. It's not even the lightning. The lightning does take them down. It's the combination of the lightning taking out 1 or 2 and then you lay those death sentries down and then they just all start dropping. And then I swap to this. I mean, look how fast my mana comes back. Look at that. I mean, look at the life leech right there. We really don't even need potions unless I get into a whole lot of trouble and I'm just way too surrounded. And I'm really taking my time with this cows. I'm not trying to run through it extra fast or anything like that. I'm just running around kicking shit, talking while I'm playing. And I really did a whole lot of talking at the beginning of the video, kind of explaining my thought process and the whole thing. But yeah, this is just one of the assassin builds that I like to mess around with. I like to keep a couple different combinations of items in my stash for all of my characters so I can experiment around and also have a little bit slightly different play style, even though it really is just kicking shit and laying traps down with this. And I might actually make a chaos pretty soon so I can run around and whirlwind enemies and stuff as well with this build. I think that's more of a build for PvP than for PvM, but I think it's still gonna be fun to mess around with. See, there goes my little twisters. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the build. Let me know if you like Rift more than Voice of Reason. I personally like Voice of Reason more. And I could maybe have it with Medusa's Gaze instead of this, but then I wouldn't get the 7 kicks, which is going to cause the orbs to come out more often, and also cause my Carrion Wind to send the twisters out more often. So I mean, it's all kind of like a balancing act at the end of the day, and I don't think there's any right answer or wrong answer. And there's not really, I mean, it's not like it's a competitive game unless you're playing PvP against other players. And then even at that, you know, you're playing over the internet. I don't think there's anybody who's had a Diablo 2 land contest where everybody, you know, I mean, the game's originally 25 frames per second. It's like there's so many things that could be lost in translation between one person's machine and the next. So I don't know. I don't really look at it as the most competitive game or anything like that. I look at it more as a fun game to play. Take your mind off other things, you know, have fun magic finding, have fun messing around with builds, testing things out, you know, seeing what all the possibilities are. But everybody have a great day, and if you've been checking the content lately, I really appreciate you, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.